Welcome to the Moment Masters Show, where we empower you to be functional entrepreneurs by helping you hone your capability to recognize the hidden opportunities that cultivate wildly successful and profitable ventures. And now, please welcome your host, the Small Biz Whisperer, Shakira M. Brown.
Yes. Welcome everyone to another episode of the Moment Masters Show, where we help you master the very moment in which you have the opportunity to sell your goods and services to your target audience. This podcast is all about arming you with the tools you need to achieve the growth and success you want. I am Shakira Brown. You can learn more about me at momentmasters.com, or you can visit my business website at shakirabrown.com. And if you are not following me on Twitter, why aren't you? It's so easy to do so. Just go to Twitter, enter at Small Biz Whisperer, that's at Small Biz Whisperer, where I post a myriad of tips and tricks of my own insightful musings, as well as some from small business marketing and sales gurus. So definitely check that out. And of course, you can see my social media links at momentmasters.com in the show notes for this episode or any episode.
If you have ever watched a film, television show, or commercial, you have likely heard or seen my next guest. Tony Daniels is an actor. He often uses his voice to act and has done so for major brands such as NASCAR, Fox Sports, Bud Light, Super Bowl commercials, folks. He has worked with Howard Stern. He has voiced very iconic characters such as Kellogg's Tony the Tiger. I'm sure many of you recognize that name. He's also done a little bit of work for the Marvel Universe, for fans of Marvel like myself. He has voiced the character Gambit on a cartoon series for X-Men. He has worked recently on HBO's High Maintenance. I mean, the guy's everywhere. And part of why he's on the Moment Master Show is because he is a moment master. He has mastered many moments to allow him to do what he loves, to be able to act and have control of his own lifestyle and his time by being an actor and a voiceover actor and being able to do what he loves. And that is extremely important, folks. And I wanted to bring someone like this on the show because it's not just about a brick and mortar business or having an online business or traditional biz like that. It's looking at whatever it is that you're doing as an enterprise that needs to be strategized around and being able to leverage opportunities that come your way. And quite certainly, Tony Daniels has done that. And you will hear all about it right after these words.
Let me ask you, would you like to make your product or service irresistible to buyers? Would you like to attract more prospects and customers easier and more effectively than ever before? Would you like to never again have to explain what you do or what you offer over and over again to the same people? Would you like to learn the one thing that will boost your business into action? If you've answered yes to any of these questions, then what you want is a brand strategy. If you would like to have a branding experience that is actually rewarding, enlightening, and nearly effortless, then check out my 3-month one-on-one private intensive brand coaching program designed for business leaders like you who are ambitious, busy, work hard, and are ready to invest in your future success. For more information, click the link in the show notes of this episode. You can also email me at podcast@momentmasters.com for details. Remember, only you can decide to make your business grow into one that allows you to spend more time doing absolutely what you love, or you can simply treat it as a hobby. It's your choice. Tony Daniels, welcome to the Moment Master Show.
Hello, Shakira. Yeah, I thought I'd put that on because it sounded cool. How are you? It's great to be here with you
I am
today.
good. Oh my goodness! Tony and I met in 2017 and this is not bragging. This is just fact. We met in New York City at a for-your consideration event held by Showtime, the network, for the program Billions.
That's right.
And yeah. And that was a great, it was really, I think, the beginning of what became this year, which was crazy. I mean, this year, Tony and I were probably at 10 different screening events with the cast this year in 2018.
At least.
It was like crazy. But that particular one that we did in 2017 for Billions was really cool because several of the actors really just kind of was chilling and hanging out with us, right?
David Constantine was like a real cool. There was no Damian Lewis.
Oh my God. Yeah, yeah, he wasn't. Damian Lewis wasn't there, but David Costabile was like none of them. He didn't have his PR person. Toby Leonard Moore didn't have his PR person. So we were just like hanging out and drinking and having a great time. So, and it was a good time for us to meet. And I met your wife, so it was just a nice time. And we agreed to do podcasts. It took a year, but here we are.
The Tobes was cool. I liked him. He was cool.
Oh my God, yeah, he was really awesome.
We're Twitter friends.
Yeah. You know what? He retweeted all of my stuff from that night. He's just like a real dude. And like I said, I love the fact that he actually told me he fired his PR people for the hiatus period because he felt that he didn't need them and didn't want to pay them for doing nothing. And I just thought that was good business.
Yeah.
That was good business. So let's talk about you, Tony. You are a voiceover artist and actor extraordinaire.
Oh, thank you.
And and from what I could tell, this has all been in your brain for many years. And I know you started off as a young person, 11 years old or so, and then in your teen years. Tell us a little bit about your entry into entertainment.
Well, let's see. I was actually around 11 playing guitar semi-professionally because, you weren't allowed to play in some of the clubs because of drinking and all kinds of nasty stuff that the older people was doing. And just started playing a lot. And then one day this guy came in and says, Hi, I'm Tom Rivers. His big voice. And I knew who it was right away because he was a legend. He was originally, I was living in Toronto, and he was originally from, I'm going to say Las Vegas, but he was a draft dodger as a kid, and then came up to Canada and was a big radio star. So anyway, I went and did his show, and I went, this was what I wanted to do, because I was the original Froggy, too. I had this deep voice as a kid, at
Really?
11 years old, I was like this, and it kind of sucked because I was a really good guitar player and backup singer, but I was always doing bass parts. And then I met this teacher, said, you should really study opera. I go, why? She goes, it'll give you, like a lot of ranges. So I'm like, well, no. So I went and studied opera for a while. And of course, then you can sing in any key. Not today, but anyway.
Hey, but that wasn't bad.
No.
It's a little rusty, but
it's really rusty right now. I don't know. Now, last night I was a bad boy. Last night we were, my friend and I were up late because I was helping him out with something, and then I came back, and they're doing construction right outside my apartment. From about 12 till about 4:30 this morning. So
they're so considerate.
Yeah.
They're just considering, the fact that you don't need sleep. And they just want to keep you up so you cannot have that said sleep that you don't.
Exactly, and then they stopped at 4:30, somewhere around there, and then the other side started at 7. So there you go. But yeah, after I did the radio thing with him, I went, that's what I want to do, and I started interning there, and then from there I had a cable TV show on camera. And my friend's father was the head of Epic Records, Columbia Epic. And I went in one day and he goes, hey, kid, I've got these things called videos. What can you do with them? And I'm like, I can play them. So I went back way before there was an MTV. I'm talking like about 5 years before MTV, I was playing videos on the air.
Wow.
Yeah, and one of the original videos I played, I loved, was Ian Drury and the Blockheads. Hit me with your rhythm stick. There's one for you.
That's interesting. Yeah, I've never. That's really obscure.
Oh yeah, totally. Oh, he was this. He was this British performer. They call him new wave post-punk funk, but I am telling you, he was doing it like way earlier than what they give him credit for, because I'd already had these videos, and that was kind of cool. That was the first foray, and then after that, there was a guy who was watching the show and said, "Hey, I'm going to do this," and took the idea and created a thing called Much Music, which the guys at MTV got a hold of and went, well, "We're going to create the same thing." So it pays to be No, it didn't pay to be an innovator.
You were a VJ. You were an early VJ.
Exactly.
Before the other people, all those guys that were on MTV. You were an early VJ. Well, how about that? That's something I didn't know about.
Yeah,
that's very interesting. And then you actually were an on-air guy. You became an on-air radio guy.
Yeah,
right?
Because I actually didn't do a lot of shifts as a jock. Because people found out, oh, hey, that guy can do voices. Let's get him on our morning show. Because that was the thing, especially at the morning zoos. Oh, let's get that guy. He can do any voice, And I was doing stuff like, well, it's me, President Reagan, and I've got a real, we were doing all that stuff, back in the day.
Wow.
Yeah, and just started doing bits for different radio stations and learning how to write comedy and. So I went from station to station just doing funny bits, and at one point I was doing call-ins to places like Dick Burton in the morning in Detroit, and then I ended up staying at 4 different major radio stations in Toronto, and then one of the stations acquired the Howard Stern show, so I'm like sort of moving fast here. But one of the stations acquired the Howard Stern show, and my boss said, hey, you should really, because you lost your job, you should really approach those guys. But it's funny because he had 2 stations, so he kept me on the other station. And then I approached Howard, and then they brought me down, and I started doing some bits for them. And a lot of my funny phone calls and songs ended up on the Stern show. Shakira, you were a fan of Stern then, too.
Oh my gosh, for many, many years. He lost me when he went over to Sirius. But even then, I was paying to watch his In Demand, just to watch. I loved watching the show. Visually see who he's speaking with was important for me as part of the experience. But yeah, huge fan of Howard Stern. In fact, we both worked at the same little student-run radio station at Boston University, WTBU.
Whoa.
That's where I got my...
Where you cut your teeth.
That's where I cut my teeth.
Wow.
I was like, this is a funny story, just to digress a sec. I was the newsreader for 2 white guys who had a rap show. A hip hop show. It was hysterical. I was like the Robin character, and these guys were like totally hip hop dudes, white dudes, rich white dudes, I should say. They were not urban at all.
Damn.
But one of them turned out to be a famous DJ. He has like a residency in Las Vegas. He used to tour with Eminem and stuff. So he turned to be somebody good. But yeah, got my start with this thing. So Howard Stern and I have a history.
That's pretty good.
We have a history. So yeah, you did some work with Howard. But tell me, for people who, been told they have a great voice and that they really should look into voiceover acting, your journey kind of has gone a few different directions. You were saying to me before we started the show, we talked a little bit about some corporate work you did, because I was curious to see if you've just been like rocking and rolling with this voiceover acting and entertainment in general. And you shared something. Why don't you share with the audience kind of your corporate background that you had and how you switched over full-time to be a voiceover actor and an on-camera actor?
I always had an affinity for electronics, electrical things. So I was studying electronics in college, and it was really strange because you realize, holy snap, I've got all these student loans. How am I going to pay them off? And I had the electronics background, I left before the program was finished because I had accumulated tons of money owing to student loans. So I ended up having to get a gig. So I ended up working for a phone company, and it was interesting because it wasn't hard work. It was actually fairly easy, but I enjoyed it because it gave me a little bit of wiggle room. So while I was doing that, so I did a regular 9 to 5 thing. I was also doing morning radio, then my 9 to 5, and then during the 9 to 5, if I had a cartoon or a commercial voiceover to actually have to tag on a bunch of hours at the end of the day. So literally, I was working anywhere from 17 to 20 hours a day. I'm surprised I'm alive.
As a young man, as a young man, you could do that. I run into people who work in resort towns, and they do all of their hours, of course, in the busy season in resort towns.
Mm-hmm.
And they work 14, 18 hours a day sometimes. It's crazy. And I say to them, how old are you? Like, oh, I'm 28. It's like, oh, you have about another 6 to 8 years, and then you'll start getting chest pains. So you were not in the chest pain range, it sounds like, back then. But sounds like you did what you had to do to make your, to kind of follow your dreams. Am I right about that?
Oh, yeah. I mean, that's a big part of it, and that's something I believe in, and I like to impart to different people, especially people say, yeah, I got a great voice and everything. I said, well, let's go in order of what you need to do. First of all, technically, I'm not a voiceover actor. I'm an actor who does voiceover, and that's what you should concentrate on. Because, being an actor is more important than calling yourself a straight voiceover, because first of all, it holds more weight. Second,
pigeonholes.
Yeah, and then you're going to get your chops up to speed when it comes to acting. And then I say, while you're doing that, also try and take trying to get in with a group like Upright Citizens Brigade or Second City, where I was, where you learn how to improv. I lucked out. And
oh, wait a minute. Hold it.
What, you didn't know that?
You were part of the famous Second City?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Royalty. Acting royalty.
Well, just anybody can go to a Second City bunch of classes. What you do with it that counts. But,
right.
I grew up working with people like Colin Mockery, who, talk about genius on the floor. And then I think part of that was teaching me how to have no fear when it came to doing it. And so you got to have no fear. It's funny because when I went to do this stuff with Howard Stern, they were always like, you don't write any of your stuff down. I go, no, it's all improv. They go, how the hell do you do that? And it's like, we learn from the best. We learn from the people we work with, and that was a great part of my life, was to be able to go to improv. We had a thing called theater sports, which was really crazy because it was improv, but it was like rapid fire, crazy, coming up with scenarios, and then it wasn't as structured as Second City, but it was just a little more like, okay, now you get to be like real wacky fun, and it worked. Really helped.
Right.
Yeah.
So, for me, I'm always looking at the business side of things, right? So, tell me, how do you look at what you do as a business? Like, how do you approach acting as a business?
Well, it's funny you ask me that, because I never really think about it as a business, but you have to, because it's what you don't know what you're spending and then you're losing. And and then you have agents and managers for that. But also it's you've got to really think about your next bunch of moves. It's kind of like a massive chess game, and then you have to be prepared, because the trends in this world change. Oh man, with all the stuff that's going on politically right now, and not just in the government, but also the Me Too movement and stuff. You've got to be ready for the trends and how things are going to change slightly, and just accept it, because it's a part of life. And if you overthink it, you're going to be hating yourself, because you're saying things like, oh man, I got nothing left. And so I tend to think of making sure you're trying to make as much as you can. And again, Shakira, that's when I went back to one of the reasons I took the job with the phone company is because I had to pay off my student loans, and I thought, you know what, I'm going to start accruing whatever I can money-wise, because, again, I was working all the time, mornings, radio, night, everything. So I wasn't spending a lot of money, so I was actually putting stuff away, just because I knew at one point I'm going to go, I ain't going to do this, phone anymore. I'm going to start, although it was fun, I soldered more wires than you can imagine. I wasn't going to do that anymore. And then it all worked out. And then having a partner who, she was a bookkeeper and worked in accounting, boy, that made it easy because it was like, hey, you can do this now. You can take off and go do this full time and not worry. And the day I did that, I booked my first major cartoon. It was really cool.
What was that?
Dare I say it? It was, and it had to be approved by the lady. It was from Miss Roseanne Barr. It was a little
interesting.
Yeah, it was a little series called Little Rosie, and that was my first major animated show. Everything else I'd been doing little things here and there. In radio, that was the thing. It was like I had a guy in radio who always counted on me to come up. They were calling me Tony Daniels, the man of 1,000 voices, and I'm like, I can do 3 voices, 5 voices, and all of a sudden within a week I'm doing like 20 and then 40 and then 70 because they kept telling me, can you learn this voice? And one of my favorites was he came in one day, he goes, hey, listen, on Monday we're going to record this thing and I need you to learn Dudley Moore's voice. I go, Dudley Moore? I'm like, okay, so how we said I watched Dudley Moore movies and I learned how to speak like I was drunk, like Dudley. And I get in on the Monday, and he goes,
well, that was Dudley as Arthur. Dudley wasn't always like that, right?
Yes, he was.
That was Dudley as Arthur.
Shakira, he was hammered all the time. He was horrible. No, he was a talented piano player, too. Like an amazing guy. But, yeah, I had to learn this Dudley Moore thing. And then I get in on the Monday, and the guy goes, what voice are you doing? I go, Dudley Moore. He goes, you tell me? I said, Dudley Do-Right. I said, no, you didn't. And I said, here's the note. He's like, oh, God, you studied Dudley Moore and you can't do Dudley Do-Right? And I go, no, I can do Dudley Do-Right in my sleep. Oh, no. That was for all you young people out there, that was a cartoon from when I was a kid. Yeah, it was pretty funny. He was a Canadian Mountie. How sick is that?
That's really super interesting. I mean, you've had a very interesting career, and you've been doing a lot of on-camera work over the last few years. And for you, what was that transition like?
Transitioning
from being behind and then going in front of the camera and acting, doing what you do, but in front of the camera.
I guess doing the that video show that I was the first guy to ever play a video.
The first VJ.
First VJ. Seriously.
Yeah, and that gave you that experience you needed to be on camera. What was your first? Well, let's say this. What was the first on camera work you did that you're proud of, that you were excited to do?
Man, a lot of the early ones I don't even remember.
Right. So let's talk about like your favorite, like the one that you were like, you know what, this was awesome. I'm glad I got this.
Oh, okay. Well, a friend of mine was a casting director, and we just became friends outside of casting. I knew him because his ex-wife was an actor I had worked with, and he brought me in one day. He goes, I need you to do something. I'm like, what? And he says, just read this thing. I'm looking at this, and I'm the only guy in the room. All these guys are GQ. I'm not kidding you. Like, I was looking at the guys going, I might switch sexes because this is really hot. And they were all gorgeous men. And I'm like, what the hell is he bringing me in for? And so I went up to him. I said, why am I here? Look at all these guys. He goes, yeah, I know. You're not going to get this. And I go, so you brought me in? He goes, yeah, but I want you to make the director laugh. What? You brought me in to make the director laugh, and I'm not going to book this. Just do it for me, please. So I went in, and I did the character, and I, I acted like a fool, and it was hilarious. And within a month and a half, 2 months, because he knew this guy was shooting a series, he hired me. And then, and then from there, I got a referral to one of my favorite shows was Erie, Indiana, The Other Dimension. Did you ever see that show?
No, I don't think I've seen that one. No.
I played the big fat Elvis in that one. In fact, I had to gain weight for it. Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. Yeah, it's really cool. It was a spinoff from Erie, Indiana. And so I went in. It was really funny. I showed up to this audition. There was all these, Elvis impersonators. And I showed up in T-shirt and jeans, and everybody's like, oh, that guy's not going to get it, I walked in, and I went, hi, everybody, sit down. My plain Cadillac is parked out front. I ain't got a lot of time for this bull. Let's just get this done. I'm going to have somebody bitch that, right? And all of a sudden, the producer stuff is just, send everybody else home. That's our guy. Done. And it was like, whoa. I thank Brian for that one as well. That was through him I got to go in. And it just, they took a chance that I was going to go in and act like a fool and get the gig, and did.
Wow. Well, this show is all about mastering the moment. So I think the one of the many moments you've mastered was that moment that your friend's dad said he's got these video things and I don't know what to do with them, and you had the wherewithal to recognize you could create a show around that. And sometimes in life, these things happen, and you just have to think things through, and sometimes act quickly, and just make things happen. And that you seem like a guy who makes things happen.
You're right. I'll tell you. You were at the Michael Kenneth Williams.
No, I missed that one. Yeah, for the show Viceland. That was one of the many for your consideration events this year. Yeah.
I'm gonna tell you did miss it. So talk about spur of the moment. So I'm standing there and commiserating with other ME members that we know. And I just happened to be by this one door, and all of a sudden Michael comes out, and he looks right at me. He goes, dude, give me a hug. And he's just like, no, you right? And I go, no. And he's like, what? I go, no, but we have this mutual friend. It was like so nice, right? All of a sudden, there was a young African-American man standing beside him, and we hit it off. And I saw his hat. It said Poetic Chef. And I go, what do you do? And he says, I'm a chef who writes poetry. I go, get out of here. We start talking. And I said to him, I go, I have an idea for a show. And seriously? And I go, yeah. He goes, dude, that's brilliant. I said, and how do you know Michael? He goes, oh, he's my dad.
Oh, wow. Oh, wow. That's great.
So his son is Kareem Anderson, and we started writing a show together, and it's a factual entertainment show about cooking. He's one hell of a chef, by the way, and so that's why I wanted to do that.
But what the good thing is, like I said, for most people, their fear is that they won't be able to make a living out of doing what you do, and you certainly are doing that well, and you have your hands in a lot of different things. You just mentioned that the show you're in development with, someone with the Poetic Chef, and that's the mindset that people need to have when they're doing anything, whether it's they want to be an actor, they want to start a business, is they need to have the mindset that whatever it takes, and to always be looking for opportunities and leveraging and mastering every moment. You've been doing that all your life.
Exactly. Yeah, and again, see the opportunity without being a pain in the what, because it's some people get to that spot where they're just they're pounding on people, and somebody will turn around and go, hey man, you'll never work again, because they get really annoyed with it. I mean, I lucked out. We were doing ADR on the series High Maintenance. That series, right?
HBO.
Yeah. Created by Katja Blickfeld and Ben Sinclair, and just really the nicest people, but they hadn't done ADR in the series yet. So we went in to do it, and they were like, wow, you guys are funny. Oh, my God, you guys are so talented. It was really nice. And one day on the street, Ben saw me, and he goes, Tony, the voice guy, yay. And he's like, hey, have you ever done it on camera? I go, sure, why? And he goes, I have an idea for a bit. I'll call you in a couple weeks. I thought, no, that's really nice, but to his credit, he called 2 weeks later, and I booked it, and I ended up doing just a little bit in episode 9, season 2, and it's pretty funny, pretty funny bit, you know. So again, and that one you can see me doing me, because I was doing the big voice guy, you know.
Right.
That sort of Don Fontaine thing, and then we were just having fun. And again, it was all, I was worried because they said there was like 37 lines. I go, 37 lines, I got to learn this? Where's the script? Oh, you don't need it. What do you mean I don't need it? They go, you're an improver.
Yeah, see, they played your card. Improv.
Yeah, so, yeah, it was great. He is so easy to follow on set that there was no pressure, no worry, no nothing. And people ask, do you get nervous? I go, well, not really, because when I was 15, I played in front of 28 or 27,000 people with a band, and you know the guys in my band were way older, you know, and they were all nervous, and I wasn't, because I don't think of it as of that. So you know. Yeah, sometimes you do get nervous about making sure you know your lines for when you're shooting, but because I'm not a great memory guy for that stuff. I've got too many other things in my brain. And then, you know, my life as a voiceover is literally, you know, 10, 15, 7, and 30, and 60. You know, that's what I read scripts of those lengths, you know.
Yeah. I mean, it's really something to hear how, you know, you've navigated through all these different things. And having watched you in action, there's one thing about Tony Daniels the audience should know, is that he's really good with establishing rapport with people early on and making people feel comfortable. And no, it's important. I will give the example at many of the events that I mentioned that we went to in New York City for the 2018 For Your Consideration events. You know, there was some of the same security people. And if Tony didn't make sure he ingratiated himself with those people, just in case there was an issue at the door, he couldn't get in, they would, you know, most likely let him in. But I don't think you do it just for that reason. I just think that, you know, you are really good at establishing a rapport and creating even if it's just a sort of informal relationship with people. But that gets you a lot of places. Don't you agree with that?
I totally agree. And here's the thing. You know, sometimes the unsung hero ones, like the security people or the people doing assist camera or the people, you know, even serving food, are hidden gems. You know, everybody on this world has something to offer, and you never know what it is. So, for instance, there was a girl at the Samantha B. up for for Full Frontal. And there was a girl, there was a camera, the assistant to the photographer. And at first I freaked out because I was like, what the hell's she doing here? Because I thought it was a friend of mine, seriously. And she's like, oh, you're sure? I've heard that line before. And I go, no, watch this. So I said to the camera guy who was her boss, I said, look at my Facebook, look at this picture. And he goes, oh my God, it's her. I go, yeah, it's not though. And I showed her, and she's like, oh my God, I look exactly like your friend. So we start talking. Talk about crazy. Taking advantage of the situation again. We start talking. And it turns out she is a radical puppeteer. She's just wild. And I've already written a show and developed it around her as a puppeteer. And I'll share that with you at some point when I can, but it's pretty cool.
Wow.
And again...
Wow.
Yeah, and again, it's just taking the time to be nice to people, because first of all, it's a smooth ride on the way up, and if you're not nice on the way up, it'll be a bumpy ride on the way down.
Oh yeah. I mean, again, Tony, you're the king of mastering the moment. You mastered that moment, and it was just a simple connection with a sort of a doppelganger situation that you know are turning into a business opportunity now. And these are the things that happen.
Exactly.
Yeah, and if you in having the right attitude and being friendly with people, these are all part of life skills that a lot of people seem to have missed over the years, but need to establish if they want to have any level of success. It's very, very important.
Agreed, and it's one of the reasons you and I became friends, because we're just nice to each other, and we get the value of what it's like just to be nice to people. There's no hidden agenda there. But when something nice happens, you're just like, it's like talking to Michael's son, Kareem. It was like, I was just being nice to him because first I thought he was a security guy, and a lot of the security guys get a hit. Like I was at a party, shouldn't say a party, it was a mixer the other night for women in music. And just outside of the event, some dumbass loses his temper and starts a fight and drags the security guys into it. And the security guys just happen to be African American. And I was livid. It's like, really? Come on. And then this other guy tried attacking the security guys with a skateboard. And I'm like, it just really got to me because it's like, come on, these guys are doing their job. Back off. Let everybody just settle down. And finally, I just said, settle down. I screamed it out. They all stopped. It was really cool. Then everybody gained composure, and then they split up a little.
Oh, see,
yeah. If you were there, that was me yelling, "Settle down!" Really loud.
Well, that was good. See, you're also saving lives. or arrest. No. Look, arrest.
Well, maybe
saving arrest.
I just don't want because it'll happen, and it because especially with the current climate, the security guys will be blamed, and again, and knowing different celebrities over the years, as touring with them in rock bands, or working alongside them in film and television. A lot of the people on the back that you don't see are the security people that stand around, making sure you're safe and stuff. So. That was one of my motivations for saying hi to the guys at the different upfronts we were going to, because it was our FYCs. Because they're always you're going to run into them if you're at all around any of the celebs and stuff. And trust me, Shakira comes in handy.
It does come in handy. There's no question.
Yeah, look at with me and you that night, whether they overbooked a venue.
What a night! Yeah.
Yeah, and again, the guy had recognized me from doing that TV show, so he's like, dude, here, just hang up the back, don't worry about it. And people come up going, you can't stand here. And he goes, yes, you can. You don't know who he is, and blah, blah, blah. And so it was really nice to be treated nice, a little differently, because I didn't want to have to go, you and I are voting members, so I wanted to be able to watch the show and vote.
Right.
And that was my point.
Exactly.
You've got a bunch of people here that aren't even supposed to be voting. And then you're going to throw out voters? No, thank you.
Right.
So.
Right. And that was another, and that was an example. That was what happened to you. I won't go into exactly what I did, but I will say that same guy who was nice to you was nice to me because I was nice to him. I didn't give him a whole bunch of lip. I was like, look, if I need to leave, I'll get up, but I was very pleasant where he was getting a lot of nastiness from people who were just feeling like, just rude, and those people got booted out. So there is something to establishing rapport and being pleasant to people and respectful. And these are things that some people just miss.
Also, folks, Shakira stood her ground.
But I was so pleasant about it. He actually thanked me for being so nice. And I wasn't even supposed to be sitting where I was sitting. He thanked me. No. You were sitting with the celebs. Yes. That's pretty cool. Yeah. So, it's part of, life skills that you need across all facets, whether it's personal or business, is to...
See, and that young fella's name was Marcus, just saying.
Oh, really? I didn't get his name, but he was...
Well, we saw each other a couple of weeks later, and we exchanged numbers and stuff because he's also a budding actor. And, you never know if somebody needs. Yep, you never know if somebody needs something, especially I think he was fluent in Spanish, so I was like, hey, yeah, we're always running into that, so definitely.
Wow. Well, thanks to Marcus for letting us stay where everybody else got booted out.
Exactly. Especially me and you, because I'll tell you, I would have. That little check mark was not going beside that box that day on that show.
Yeah, it's true. It's true.
Nah, it leaves you with a sour taste.
It does, right. So, to wrap things up, I just want to throw out there that Tony, like I said, is like a man of like thousands of voices, it seems. He could pretty much do anything, and I'm sure that that's something that you work on. How do you work on dialects and voices? How do you do that?
Oh, boy. I'm going to blow your mind.
Yeah?
I don't. I'm born with it.
Wow. You just have this one. You could do like
Seriously.
Really?
Yeah. There's a logic behind a lot of stuff, just so you know.
Okay.
Like, technically, there are only 9 voices in the world. And you could tell, because if you remember Johnny Carson?
Yes, of course.
Hi, it's me, Johnny Carson. Well, if you raise him up just slightly, you got Bugs Bunny. That's one. Number 2, you can do some research, too, that really helps, like knowing where somebody is from. So, Shakira, did you see The Life of Walter Mitty?
Yes, I have seen that.
Okay, the remake with Ben Stiller. So do you remember the scene where Ben is reading the letter that Sean Penn left him? Sean Penn's character is voicing it, though, right?
Right.
Yeah, that's not all Sean Penn.
Ah, interesting.
I had to replace a bunch of his lines, because he was working on something, and he wasn't available. So, and that's
wow.
That, yeah, that's a lot of stuff I've been doing the last few years, replacing other actors' voices in movies. And again, it's a lot of times that they're just not available. Not that they don't want to do it, because they get in their I guess in their contracts. Actors are required to do a certain amount of replacements and updates and stuff like that. But a lot of times it's just, if a guy's shooting in Indonesia or somewhere, it's cheaper to get a guy like me to come into the studio,
right?
Than to fly the guy all the way back first class,
Right, and just knock it out.
Something.
The few minutes that need to be replaced, you just go in and you knock it out at a fair price.
And then exactly, and then there are other actors like my pal Donald Sutherland, who I grew up with his kids, but he's the kind of guy who will not let you do it. He's like, he said one day to me, he goes, "You're not replacing my voice on anything." I said, "No, I can't even do your voice." He goes, "Good."
That's funny,
because he likes to do his own, and I get it, because he's very anal about making sure it's accurate, and good for him.
I hear his voice all the time. He does voiceovers a lot, doesn't he?
Yeah, and it's funny because he, again, is a great actor, so voice for him is amazing. There are actors who are decent actors who get in front of a microphone and just freeze up. They can't do it properly because they're actually hearing their own voice now, and rather than acting,
right? And
it throws them off. But a guy like Sutherland has been listening to his own voice for so long.
I hear it all the time. I hear his voice. I'm like, I think that's Donald Sutherland. I think that's him.
Yeah. I mean, was it Delta or American? He was his voiceover for a while.
I think he does something with like orange juice.
Yeah, and I mean, for a lot of those guys, it's big money, and some people don't like to do it. It's kind of sucks in a way. Like I get it. For a Donald Sutherland, I get. You want to use Donald Sutherland in your commercial, because he's got a unique voice. And in fact, not that many people can do him. But, just to hire any celebrity just because they're a celebrity, like, sorry, folks, I'm sick of Shaquille O'Neal doing commercials.
Oh, my God. He has like 10. How is he getting this work? He's not even that great.
I don't know, but no, he's not. And a couple of things he's done are non-union, which breaks the rules, but nobody's calling him out on it. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, the only person that called him out on it was Gary Oldman. Did you ever see that bit?
No, I have not.
Oh my
I
God.
love Gary Oldman.
Yeah, his sweetheart. Did you meet him?
No, I have not met him. Would love to. I'm a real big fan of his. He's one of the great character actors and leading men. I mean, but he's done some great characters, man.
Well, I would have taken you with me had I known, because I'm also a SAG and after member, and we had a SAG up front for the movie, The Darkest Hour.
Okay,
and
yeah.
he was there, and
Churchill, right?
he
It's
was
Churchill.
amazing. Yeah, Churchill. He was amazing and a great man to meet. Really insightful and nice. Again, one of those really amazing actors who's nice to people, and that's why he always has a great. He stayed right till the end, till everybody was able to talk to him for a few seconds.
Wow. Yeah, love him. Since the 80s. Really, I mean, he's just awesome. Love him.
Yeah.
So that's a great thing to mention is, you're just talking about some of these relationships that you have and being able to be like this genius guy who just can do any voice and doesn't really have to study. I think that's amazing.
Yeah, well, it all boils down to one thing. You ready? Mm-hmm. I'm also a great guitar player. And musician. Okay. Yeah, I've been playing a long time, and I can play any instrument pretty well. But yeah, I think part of that is having relative pitch. I don't ever think of perfect pitch unless you're talking about that little kid that can name every note in a chord and then call out the chord. Yeah. To me, that's perfect pitch. I mean, I can hear it. I can tune a guitar without a tuner, so it's relative to me, but it's very interesting.
Last piece of advice. When should someone who is looking to jump into the specifically voiceover acting pond, when they're looking to jump in there, how long into doing it should they get an agent?
The best thing to do is, for people starting out, a buddy of mine, Lawrence Fishburne, hates acting classes. But, at some point, sometimes you need that little boost, and sometimes I'd like to go, and a friend of mine, Thomas G. Waits, famous actor from the movie The Warriors, from The Thing.
Oh, wow, okay.
And Justice for All. Mm-hmm. He's a great actor. He has a class on Monday nights in New York City. And I'll go just to watch the young up-and-coming actors fiddle around on stage. Sometimes you see brilliance, a lot of times you don't. And so I'll just impart some information to them like, hey, don't try so hard. Why? Because now you're not acting. Acting is, everybody hears acting is reacting. All right? And that's the same with voiceover. So if you can pad your order by taking a few classes just to get that confidence and familiarity, then I would take an improv class, because I'll tell you that's worth its weight in gold.
Yeah. Okay.
All right, and then thirdly, just read and write stuff. Read Shakespeare, and you're going to go, whoa, this is like heavy. I can't do this Shakespeare stuff.
Right.
But you read it just to get a form of what was and what is, and just how to do stuff, right? And then if you can, especially if you're younger, try starting out by getting into a small theater group. That's one of the best things ever.
And then after all that, you start working, and should you try to get some representation? That's the thing I'm trying to get to, is like when should to
representation.
Yeah, and when should they? I mean, should they try to get that right away when they feel like they've gotten, they've practiced, they've trained, they've gone to improv, that they should try to find someone to represent them, right, to help them get gigs and lock in contracts.
If it's voice, the first thing you do is make sure you go to a reputable place to get your demo done, not these fly-by-night places. But there's a couple places in New York, if you're in New York, a place called Star Tracks, and Roy will do your demo up nicely. And all the people I've sent got their demos done with him. They're booking,
right?
Because they do a really good demo.
Right.
So you got to get a good demo,
cheap.
and at
don't
that
be
point,
cheap. Invest in a high-quality demo. Real. Okay.
Yeah, and just don't buy everybody's. Oh wow, I can do it. No, you basically once you have a good demo, then you can approach a bunch of different. You're going to start right away non-union, because you're not getting into the union on the same day. It's not going to happen. It's just the way it works. But you definitely want to hook up with, a non-union agent and get yourself, get in there, get a bunch of stuff under your belt, and then possibly can send you to audition for a union job. Then you get a bunch of waivers, and once you get that done, then you become a union, and hopefully that's when the big bucks set in.
Oh, we can only hope for the big bucks. Well, that's great information. Thanks so much for sharing that. And is there any place that you want to send anybody who's listening to this episode to learn more about you, connect with you?
Oh, sure. I mean, there's TonyDaniels.com. You can find me on SoundCloud, Tony Daniels Voices or Voice or whatever it is.
It will be in the show notes. I have the link, folks. It'll be in the show notes.
And then there's @Cartoon Voices for Twitter, and Instagram is, I think, just Tony Daniels.
Well, Tony, thank you so much for coming on the Moment Master Show. You've been an awesome guest, and I've actually learned more about you. I thought I knew a lot already, but I learned so much about you, and I'm sure that our audience will have gleaned some great information about how they can turn their acting, whether it's voice or in front of the camera, into a smart business enterprise for themselves and make some money. Thank you.
Thanks for having me.
Key takeaways from this episode, I hope that you will implement or consider implementing in your own life or business, is it is very important to establish a high quality rapport with everyone you encounter. The reason? You don't know how those relationships are going to net out. Is it going to be something where it's just a hi and bye? Or is it going to be something that leads to a business opportunity that will make you maybe the most amount of money you've ever made? It's important to follow your dreams, but to do it wisely and to make sacrifices, but don't sacrifice to the point where, you lose your shirt. You got to be smart. Tony told a great story about how he spent some time working a corporate job so he can pay back his student loans. That was smart. It didn't take him off his game. He stayed focused, and he was able to position himself so that he could do what he wanted to do, which was to be an actor full time. I hope that you're able to take these messages from this episode and turn something around in your business, or have a new perspective or mindset about how you approach different aspects of whatever it is that you're doing. If you enjoyed this episode, and I hope you did, please leave a heartfelt review on iTunes. It will help other people like you find this program. If you have any questions or comments or would like to be a guest on the show, please email me at podcast@momentmasters.com. That's podcast@momentmasters.com. If you are looking for other ways to optimize your business, I'd love for you to join me on one of my live webinars, which you can find at functionalentrepreneur.com. That's functionalentrepreneur.com. I'm offering some really great insights for small business owners and startup businesses like yours to focus in on the most important things to move you forward. Please check them out at functionalentrepreneur.com. Thank you again to Tony Daniels for coming on the show and sharing a lot of great information. Please remember that everything that we discussed, including links and information that I've shared, will all be in the show notes of this episode. Thank you so much for listening today. My name is Shakira Brown, also known as the Small Biz Whisperer, and wherever you may be and whatever time it is right now, I hope you learned a little something to truly become a moment master. Take care.